Alright, so my first Equestria Girls review done back in December got way more views than I expected it to, which is quite interesting. For all you big YouTubers or any other idiot there saying that it's not anything to brag about, I say fuck off. You're forgetting that I'm not a critically acclaimed YouTuber yet, so this amount of views for a video is decently shocking to me still. Let's see if we can pull that off again for this one. Well, anyway, since my review for Holidays Unwrapped seemed to be intriguing for some of you, it only makes all the sense for me to do another review on EG. But this time it's gonna be slightly different because last time I was trash talking up a storm for Holidays Unwrapped, and by the way, I still own up to everything I said in that video. Today, instead of that, we're actually gonna be reviewing an Equestria Girls movie that I like, which also happens to be my favorite one in the spin-off series, which is Friendship Games. I've been kinda holding back on this video because there was some others I wanted to work on first. Plus, unlike the Holidays Unwrapped review, I actually got a kick out of that one because it's way more fun to talk about things I hate or just don't like. But as for today's review on Friendship Games, I'll actually be a lot more positive as opposed to how I was in the last one, because in case you missed it, this movie is my favorite one in the EG series. I know I said that already, but I just like to emphasize things. Although, of course, I'm not completely on the praising side here because there were some things I didn't like here, but for the sake of being nice to this series, I'll save those for the end. Alright, now let's talk about the best Equestria Girls film in the series, at least from my point of view, because I know not everyone will agree, but still. So, the movie opens up with Sunset Shimmer and the other four girls running to the school, along with Rainbow Dash already being egotistical and calls all her friends for a quote-unquote emergency. Fresh from Rainbow Rocks, which was the movie before this one. And this emergency is just her needing another string for her stupid guitar, and she really needed to call all the girls just to do that shit, which definitely makes me question my decisions of her being my favorite character in MLP as a whole. And it was just to perform a song for Scootaloo, Apple Bloom, and Sweetie Belle, who strangely don't talk in most of these movies. I think the only time we hear them speak is during the summertime shorts and miniseries or whatever. Well, that's embarrassing. But then just when Sunset's about to write another message to the original Twilight back in Equestria, this mysterious figure comes out of a bus and scans the mirror, which also happens to be the portal back to Equestria, where the ponies are. Afterwards, it's revealed that this mysterious figure is Twilight 2.0. Dun dun dun! Yeah, I saw this coming and so did everyone else. Because in Rainbow Rocks, there was a post-credit scene where it showed Sci-Twi for the first time, cluing us in that there was going to be a third installment in this movie series having to do with the Twilight from the human world. So yeah, I feel like that was supposed to be kind of a build-up, but we already knew who that was. Although, one rabbit hole I keep digging into was how there are two Twilights, the one from Equestria, who's the OG Twilight, and Nerdy Twilight, which I like to call her just for kicks. So the others are basically doppelgangers of the main cast, along with some of the side characters as well. But is there another Sunset Shimmer? Is there another Starlight Glimmer? I don't know, this series is not as specific as it should be. Anyway, after that opening sequence, we get this awesomely dramatic and badass intro. I call it all those things because that's the vibe I get when watching it. It's just a masterpiece to me. This is how all intros should be, getting your blood pumping, having awesome visuals, and a catchy musical number. Like the freaking guitar is so good and it really sells it along with the vocals. But after that, we get a viewing from Twilight's perspective of being a student at this school known as Crystal Prep. And from her side of things, Crystal Prep is obviously less about friendship and more about independence, I guess you can call it, which makes what I'm about to say here all the more sense. Then we get a musical number from her called What More Is Out There, and I thought it was okay. One thing that always enters my mind when I see scenes like this for shows and whatnot is how the characters just randomly sing a song out of nowhere without other people's consents. I know it's just a cartoon, but that was always funny to me, how a song was just randomly pulled in out of nowhere, like the ones you'd hear on SpongeBob. Like, imagine you're sitting outside and seeing someone randomly sing a random song without studying any vocals or something like that. I'm guessing people are just cool with the characters randomly singing songs at times. Anyway, back to the review. For the way I view it, CHS is basically Sonic, or Team Sonic, while Crystal Prep is Shadow, or Team Dark in this case. If you're confused, just think of it like that. Even their nickname has the word Shadow in it. Sorry, I'm a Sonic geek and I have to bring it up. It just speaks to me. But yeah, the plot overall is Canterlot High and Crystal Prep Academy competing against each other in a series of exciting events including archery, motocross, and roller skating. Basically just Mario and Sonic at the Olympic Games, except with more of a story and not just a basic-ass minigame collection with no personality behind it. The beginning portion just sets up some world building and reintroduces the characters and atmosphere along with the new cast of characters we got at the time, being the Shadow Balls. And yeah, their name is definitely fitting because just like Shadow, who used to be focused on winning for a while, that's all the students at Crystal Prep seem to care for, really. But yeah, in terms of the other movies, of how they handled their plots, characters, and build-up, this one in particular, I think, does a decent, or at least a much better job from what I've seen of all the other films. I mean, there were times where the cast of characters were getting a bit too crowded for my tastes at random points, but they did make it clear that these girls that we saw in the intro are proven to be the anti-versions of the main six. And like I said, all they seem to care about is winning, and CHS never manages to beat them. I think a longer runtime for this 1 hour and 12 minute long movie could have smoothed things over a little more, but as long as my eyes are enjoying the things I witness on my screen, that's all that really matters. But this is definitely a nice story and moral about the importance of friendship and teamwork. And I can definitely appreciate the simplicity since you don't always have to be a dramatic or serious story to be enjoyable. I mean, there's definitely some ambition throughout this movie as I've watched it, and as I've rewatched it over the past couple of months. Plus, there are a decent amount of plot lines that actually make sense and fit with everything else in the movie, like Sunset being tasked to handle how intense the magic can get here since, well, she's the reason why magic exists in the human world to begin with. But that does lead to some unfortunate events for later on in the film, which we all get into in a little bit. The real climax begins like halfway through the movie during the time of when the competition takes place. Also, can we talk about the songs for a minute, because I'd say this EG film had the best music. All of them were really enjoyable, and the messages behind some of them were told fairly well. My favorite song in the entire movie, aside from the intro, which doesn't exactly count, has got to be Akadeka, which plays once both teams from both schools face off against each other in the challenges and such. It really gets your blood pumping, and it lets you know that shit's about to get real. Like, I would just randomly sing the line, "We're not about to let you win, so get out of our way, think you got us beat, but we're here to stay," over and over to myself randomly, while I'm sure the people next to me would look at me like I was a creep. That's how good the song is. I also like the song Unleash the Magic, and that's mostly, if not entirely, because of the fact that it has the word unleash in it. And anything that makes me think of my favorite game of all time is okay in my book. But seriously, the context behind this song is pretty disturbing, because imagine being Twilight in this situation where you're basically being held against your will to unleash magic to win against a school in some silly-ass competition Olympic thing. Like, seriously, it's not that deep. They're having her go through all this BS just to win some silly competition game. Like, there's being a killjoy, and then there's doing whatever the hell this is just to win some silly competition. But yeah, Twilight didn't deserve all the crap she went through in this film, I can tell you that much. I mean, being yelled at by Sunset clearly wasn't enough to the writers, I guess. But everything after the Unleash the Magic song is where the real climax starts taking charge. And let me tell you, I was actually shocked when I saw all this for the first time. Like, seriously, this was only meant for kids or girls to view, but if it's somehow able to make me go crazy, then that's insane. It made me feel like a little kid again, getting hype over shit I would see in cartoons and other TV shows. Anyway, Twilight then transforms into Midnight Sparkle for the first time, who, by the way, gives me vibes of Dark Queen Merlina from Sonic and the Black Knight. Man, I know I said this already, but Twilight really got the boot in this entire movie. She got pressurized by Principal Grinch twice, awkwardly interacted with the side characters and main six over them confusing her with Princess Twilight, and now she's forcibly turning herself into Midnight Sparkle. Jeez, all she wanted was to learn more about the magic coming from Crystal Prep, and she got herself into accidentally stealing the main six's magic at several points and being pushed around by her fellow classmates. The ambition was certainly growing strong in this one. But as if one epic transformation wasn't enough to shock you, we actually get 2 transformation sequences in this one film. So after the girls get their power back, we then get something that I know all the bronies were crapping their pants about when they viewed it for the first time. Daydream Shimmer. Quite the name there, I must say. But yeah, just like Sonic, I think this entire series also wins the award for having the most character arcs, because this series in particular gets this sort of thing for every movie. For better or for worse. But the thing that made Midnight Sparkle change a bit was just by viewing Spike, and gotta admit, that was pretty cute. Good lord, all these scenes just give me Sailor Moon vibes all around, and that's always a pleasure to see. Then, once all is well, Principal Grinch is still the same aggressive, gloating, sore winner she was from the very beginning. She says something like, "Oh, since you were using magic during these games, that means you must forfeit the games," or whatever. Yeah, she's that desperate for bringing home the goal and making sure her reputation is at an all-time high. Remember kids, don't be like these kind of people. But it's alright though, because everyone else, even her own students, call her out for being a douche throughout the whole film, and yay! Mega happy ending with everyone winning. And then Principal Grinch just walks off into the distance, and we never see her again. Like, I'm serious, we don't see her appear in any other movies after this. This was her only appearance in the entire series. Yeah, I don't exactly know what that was about, because, yeah, she's not even name-dropped in any of the other movies onward. But yeah, everyone else wins, and that's nice to see. And of course, Twilight decides to transfer to Canterlot High to learn more about friendship from the professionals, and that's the end of the movie. And there's a post-credit scene with Princess Twilight heading on over to the human world and meeting her human world counterpart, yet they don't exactly talk to each other. Or we don't exactly see them talking to each other here. At least, not until Spring Breakdown. And yeah, that was the movie, and before I started making this video, I watched the whole movie again to make sure most of my points would still stand, and yep, I still like this movie a lot. Alright, well, I think I might have praised this movie enough for now, so let's get into some things that I didn't like. All the scenes with Flash Sentry were bad. This is kind of weird to say because I just think Flash is an interesting, or just, a good character, or just, decent enough. Even though most of the people I went to seemed to hate him, but to me, he's fine and far from the worst character this series had to offer. Trust me, there are way worse characters in this entire show. Zephyr Breeze, Vignette Valencia, Principal Grinch. Excuse me. But yeah, anyway, Flash is fine as a character, but in this movie, he's terrible. Whenever he appears in a scene, he's just there to remind you that he had a thing for the Twilight in the first Equestria Girls film and Rainbow Rocks. But that was towards Twilight in Equestria. This Twilight is a little more nerdy, as you can tell by her glasses, and is more clumsy than the original Twilight. For every part that you see him in, he's just shoehorned in for shits and giggles, and I roll my eyes every time he tries to talk to nerdy Twilight. I don't know why the writers seem to just make him seem useless every time he shows up. He had huge potential. The only time he had a main role was in that music video Cheer You On, which has earned a spot on my top 5 favorite songs in MLP as a whole, and that was it. Another thing is that there's this plot hole where Spike from this world doesn't have a voice, but after the scene where Twilight's spectrometer steals Fluttershy's power when she does her pony up, while Spike goes through a few and portals, and then when all that's done, he randomly has a voice. And that was never really explained all that well, because the movie kind of played it off like it was nothing. I don't really get that. Maybe there's some MLP lore that I'm missing out on, but yeah, when I saw that for the first time, I was just like, what the hell? But it's okay. It didn't really drag anything down, I just thought it was a little bit weird. Other than those two things, I don't really have much to complain about. If anything, most of the flaws were easily just ignorable, and it didn't really stop me from enjoying this movie any less. I did like the new cast of characters we've gotten, like Sour Sweet, Sunny Flare, Lemon Zest, Sugarcoat, and Indigo Zap. I have no idea who came up with those names, but please give them a raise. I know we were supposed to view them as mean characters, but mean doesn't always have to equal unlikable. They do get some redemption, and even more so in Dance Magic. Also, there's this one scene with RD talking to Pinkie Pie, and her eyes just randomly zone out and separate for some reason. And it made me laugh way harder than it should have, cause I don't know if that was unintentional or intentional. One could easily assume that it's an animation error of some sort, but it kind of doesn't really feel like one in a way. It is in character for her not to exactly understand what is being said at times, but the way it plays out here is just so goofy. And yeah, if Principal Grinch was meant to be shown as a selfish dick throughout the whole movie, they definitely did a good job of doing so. You'd think she would be the main antagonist of this film, and while she kind of was, that would mostly go to Midnight Sparkle. Which I guess was of course caused by Grinch. But yeah, she pretty much brought everything upon herself, that's all I can say. And by doing a little bit of research, I found something that was quite interesting. Apparently this movie was going to have a much deeper plot in terms of this series and what it seems to strive for. In the original, the story and build-up was already pretty fantastic and was handled fairly well. But by looking at the original storyboards and deleted scenes, it shows that Sunset was supposed to originally be homesick and wanting to go back to Equestria since she didn't really know how to handle the magic in the human world. So yeah, she was supposed to go through an existential crisis in the original script, just like me these days. Honestly, that sounds a lot more intriguing, and it should have been in the movie. And I think Nerdy Twilight was originally supposed to go back to a Crystal Prep and teach everyone there more about friendship like how it is at Canterlot High. While this does make me sad that the crew didn't go for a plot as more in-depth as those, I can still appreciate this movie for what it does, and it really seems like they cared here. But me thinks that the crew members were originally intending for Friendship Games to be the last EG movie because, of course, due to how popular this franchise is, they just had to keep holding on to it. And you can't exactly blame them for wanting to end it off here. Because Friendship Games does have some of those elements where it feels like a finale. From the looks of it, there was definitely going to be a lot more climax added, but due to restraints, we got a little less of a grander story. It's a little shocking that there was so much being held back from this point. I'm actually a little shocked that they managed to slip out the deleted scenes for it, and people actually got their hands on it. Overall, I still consider Friendship Games to be the best EG movie. Of course, not everyone might agree with me, but hey, it's just an opinion. And yeah, I don't really have much bad complaints here, aside from Flash being thrown into the scenes for no reason at all. And some plot holes, but that's about it. But if this movie was originally supposed to be the ending for Equestria Girls, and those deleted scenes ended up appearing in the main film, I'd say it would have ended on a high note. Better to have a conclusion that's at least trying to wrap things up, unlike a certain holiday-themed special where it feels nothing like a finale. I'm still mad at you! Another thing is that I feel the first couple of EG films had good build-up with one another, since the movies sometimes like to take place after the ones that came before. I actually really liked that, seeing as we view these characters go through growths and such, which is always nice to see. And the miniseries that came shortly after gave us some okay entries in the series, but the build-up isn't as crucial as the ones before Season 2 started. I'll eventually get around to reviewing the other EG movies as well, because my brain was definitely filled to the brim with conflicting thoughts after watching all of them, but those are videos for another time. So overall, I'd give Friendship Games an 8 out of 10 and an A rank for keeping me intrigued throughout all of my times of watching it. When I rewatch some of the films, this is obviously the one I go back to the most because I just remember having the most fun with this one in particular. And yeah, it still holds up, even after almost 10 years. Yeah, the movie came out in 2015, and it's about to be 10 years old next year. That's pretty amazing. But anyway, that'll do for now, so thank you guys for watching. Comment, like, and subscribe if you enjoyed, and have a nice day.